I've come here today to announce my candidacy for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States.
I recently found out that RFK Jr. has been polling really well as the Democratic presidential nominee for 2024, and I was actually confused as to why people actually like him. I feel like he is everything the Democratic Party stands against, and because of that, I have no idea why this person polls at 20%, which is pretty high. And then we'll also discuss whether Biden should debate him because people seem to be wanting that, and some people seem to not be wanting that. So we'll go into kind of like the history of the US and whether incumbent presidents have been debating their competition. So the first reason why I'm skeptical of why people like RFK Jr. is that he is apparently anti-vax, or he's labeled as anti-vax. Whether that is true or not is a little bit different. I went on his Wikipedia page. I know it's not the most credible place, but it has decent basic information. And it says that Kennedy is a key player in the anti-vaccine movement, spreading misinformation and propaganda. However, it also states that he says that people who advocate for safer vaccines should not be marginalized or denounced as anti-vaccine. I am pro-vaccine. I had all 6 of my children vaccinated. I believe the vaccines have saved lives of hundreds of millions of humans over the past century, and that broad vaccine coverage is critical to public health, but I want our vaccines to be as safe as possible. So I actually did not know this part. I just hear other people say like, oh, he's anti-vax, and I'm like, oh, maybe he is anti-vax. But from this quote, it's from one of his books, Let the Science Speak. I'm not about to buy this guy's book, but he seems to be kind of all over the place on a lot of policies. And maybe that's why people kind of like him. Not really 100% too sure, because he used to be, in this article, they talked about how he was a very big climate activist, and that's why people liked him a lot. But then once he goes into this anti-vaccine thing, people seem to not like him as much and call him a full-blown conspiracy theorist. Another thing that's very interesting is that he's also a Kennedy. And I know there's some politicians who are fake Kennedys, but this person's uncle was JFK and his dad was RFK, both of whom are obviously very prominent politicians. And the Kennedys have had power for a very long time. And some even say that they kind of run the Democratic Party, at least during certain years. And to me, that just screams out of like a huge privilege that this person has, which again would kind of go against the whole like Democrats liking this person, because I always associated Democrats with like not liking people who were very privileged. And this person is literally the definition of privilege. His dad was a senator. He was an attorney general. His uncle was the frickin' president. So I don't see like how this person is relatable at all in that aspect. The third point I'd like to make, and call me ableist, whatever, I don't care, but when you think of someone who's presidential, you think of someone who is going to lead the country, and they have to be able to do a lot of things, and one of them is speaking. So Obama, people liked him because he spoke really well. Clinton, people really liked him because he spoke really well. And even recently, Trump, people like him because he spoke really well. However you define speaking really well, the way I define it is being able to speak succinctly, being able to speak confidently, and also being able to think on your feet. And I think all 3 of those presidents have done that. I can't say the same about the one in office right now. At least, like, yeah, well, that's a topic for a different day. But I can't say the same about RFK Jr. either. It's really sad because he has reported in 2008 spasmodic dysphonia, which makes his speech difficult. And it really does make his voice sound a lot different and, in my opinion, not in a good way. So again, I'm going to go back to the question, why do people really like him? It seems like his policies are a little not run-of-the-mill. It's not like he's some grand orator or something like that. The only thing I can think of is the connection to his family. However, his family has recently not really disowned him, but they've kind of like distanced themselves from him. So there are a lot of Kennedys in high political positions, and pretty much most of them are taking the stance of, hey, he's my uncle, or hey, he's one of my relatives, we love him, whatever, he's part of the family, but I don't support his positions, which to me is very interesting because that means most of the pull that he has kind of goes away. So it really is impressive to see him pull at this high rate, 20%, and we'll get into what that actually means later and compare it to all the historic times that this phenomenon has kind of happened. You can see in this article here, all these quotes, it's pretty much just saying a lot of the Kennedys are not in support of his positions, which, that's actually kind of crazy. How is this person getting so much support? If you have any ideas, do let me know, but let's get into whether he deserves to actually debate President Biden in the Democratic primaries for 2024, because I believe you do have the right to just not debate anyone. You could do whatever you want, right? It's a free country. But would Biden look weak? Obviously, if you debate someone, it gives more attention to the other person. So I think there's not really a win-win solution for Biden here. You either debate the person and give them a platform, or you don't debate them and potentially look a little weak. So in an election year where there is no incumbent president that's running, the Democratic National Committee has a certain criteria to qualify in the debates, and that is breaking 1% in 3 polls from pollsters approved by the DNC, or tallying 65,000 unique campaign donors with at least 200 donors in 20 different states. Apparently, they could change this criteria as well, but 1% is normally very, very difficult to get, let alone 20%. However, this is not one of those years. This is a year when there is a sitting president that's going to be running. So what happens then? So let's go back in history right now. Donald Trump, he did not debate in 2020. However, he did not really have any big opposition. We can see in the primaries here that the other person, Bill Weld, I haven't even heard of this person, did not even stand a chance. All right, let's go to 2012 for Barack Obama. Again, no competition, so there wasn't a debate. Next up is George Bush in 2024. And again, there was no debate. Bill Clinton, same thing, but George H.W. Bush, something interesting happens there in 1992. In this year, there was a challenger, Pat Buchanan, and he had 23% of the actual vote, but I have no idea what he did in the polling. But I could not find any footage of this debate, so I'm assuming it also didn't happen. However, it is interesting to note that George H.W. Bush did lose when he had a big challenger. Next up is Ronald Reagan in 1984, but he did not have a real challenge. Jimmy Carter in 1980, however, did. Jimmy Carter faced off against Ted Kennedy. Noticing a pattern yet? And Ted Kennedy did give him a run for his money and the actual vote. However, still no debate. There's actually a really funny article here where it's titled, "Kennedy Tries Again to Lure Carter into Debate." I'm assuming this didn't happen. I will note that since the advent of the modern primary election system in 1972, an incumbent president has never been defeated by a primary challenger, though every president who faced a strong primary challenge went on to be defeated in the general election. However, I want to go over one last race that I found again to be very interesting, and that is going to be the 1968 Democratic National Convention. But first, a bit of history. John F. Kennedy won the presidential race in 1960, got assassinated in 1963, was taken over by Lyndon B. Johnson, and then he went on to win 1964's election. However, in 1968, Lyndon B. Johnson was allowed to run again. What happened? So the Democratic National Convention was going to be held on August 26th through 29th. However, Johnson was behind both RFK Jr.'s dad, and McCarthy in the Wisconsin primary, which is something that doesn't really happen, and therefore he decided to drop out. However, Kennedy was assassinated on June 5th, even though he was very close in second place, which led to a victory for Humphrey. There's a lot of pattern recognition going on right now, which is a little bit scary. So I want to see when a president has been denied his party's nomination. We went over this in a little short we had posted a little while back, where we saw a couple of them. John Tyler in 1844, Millard Fillmore in 1852, and then Andrew Johnson in 1868, and Chester Arthur in 1884 were the only times that has kind of happened. This election should prove to be very interesting, and looking at the betting odds right now, Kennedy is sitting at 5.7%, which is pretty low, but he's just kind of getting started. And then if you want to look to see what the betting odds are for the US presidency by the candidates, Biden's at 37.1, Trump at 27, and DeSantis at 14, and then Kennedy at 5. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. Do you think there will be debates during the Democratic nominations? Does he deserve a debate? I feel like the times have changed. Maybe he does, but then again, every president in the past that have been in similar situations has said, nope, not going to debate you, not going to give you a platform. So I guess that's fair game too. But can anyone find out some actual reasons why people actually like Kennedy? Nothing against him. I just don't see him checking off all the boxes. He does make some good points though, because he does mention that right now the Democratic Party is kind of like the Chinese Communist Party, because the party picks a candidate, not so much the people in this case, if there is no debate.
To convince the American public that we really have a democracy in this country, that it's not just a rigged system where the candidates are chosen by the political party the way that was done in the Soviet Union.
Whether that is true or not, I don't really know. That's just what RFK says, because he obviously wants to get a debate going. But it does bring the question, who actually chooses the candidates? Is it the people or is it the party? The whole delegate system is kind of a little weird, so it does make it more complicated than it probably should be. But I guess we just don't have a better way to do it quite yet that's implemented. However, the fact that Biden's facing a lot of pressure from a second candidate brings up the question of, is he going to win in 2024? Historically, that does not bode well for that incumbent president. However, Trump is such a polarizing figure that I don't really think you could apply history or like historical data and take it into account properly, because that's definitely how he won in 2016. He's kind of like a wild card. You don't really know what's going to go on, and maybe it just breaks all the rules. But let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments below. Let me know who you think's going to win. Let me know why you think people do like RFK. And if you like him, also share some reasons why. One thing that I like about him, I've watched a couple of his interviews, is that he's very open to communicating with almost anyone. And even though it's hard to kind of listen to him, he's very open about pretty much any topic, at least from what I've seen so far. But I haven't done full research yet, so I can't really say for sure whether it's like yay or nay. He also talks about the marriage between corporations and government, which I kind of disagree with too. And also like the amount of control that the media kind of has, which I definitely believe in. Trust me. Like, I invested a lot in media. One of my reasons why I invested in Twitter long ago, this was back in like 2016 or something like that, was because it's so powerful. It's not that the company needs to make money. It doesn't need to if you can control who wins the presidency. That's why I invest in Facebook. They controlled, apparently, Cambridge Analytica used Facebook's data to control who wins the presidency. Like, that is power. And some things are priceless, you know, it's like that has to be worth something. So I invested a lot into technology companies, media companies, because I did think they were too powerful as well. Like, I'm one of those people who kind of likes to speak with my actions rather than just my words. And yeah, I think they are too powerful. And am I going to profit off it if I can? Yeah, I'm going to try to, but that doesn't mean it's right, you know? I would also invest into CNN, MSNBC, ABC, like all those types of news channels or whatever, but they're owned by like much bigger companies that own a lot of stuff. Same with like Fox News. It's kind of hard to kind of edge into those. I think the one that's like most direct is buying like the New York Times or buying Fox, because Fox, like, they had a breakup or whatever. They like broke up the company, and like the news company is a pretty big portion of like the Fox group. I forget the exact name of it, but investing into like CNN directly is very difficult because like it's just owned by such a big company. Twitter, it used to be publicly traded. Facebook still is, but they do a lot of other stuff. So it's really hard to like directly invest into like media or like brainwashing, whatever you want to call it. But for RFK, I'm not really for or against him. It's just interesting to kind of see. I'm kind of like neutral in a lot of these things because I feel like not many candidates ever speak for me. There is one person right now though, but I don't think that person's anywhere close to even gaining any traction. But it is what it is. Until there's someone that actually speaks for me, I will not actually vote. But that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you all next time.